Welcome back to episode 3 of Grateful Wealth Magnets. I've been reading up on one of the more polarizing figures of our time in Donald Trump, and I've become intrigued by how someone with a conflicted moral base like Trump rose to the top of the world's most powerful nation. It's not only Trump, there are people just like him from all walks of life that carry a similar mindset and move in a similar fashion and have gathered notoriety, success, and fortune because of the aggressive and polarizing behavior and nature that they have. Trump's case is interesting, though, because he's an individual who we saw crossing the line and saying exaggerated statements in real time to maintain his power. In most cases, these types of behaviors are carried out behind closed doors while an individual attempts to maintain a reputation publicly, but Trump never seemed to care about the backlash of his words or his actions. He was more concerned with maintaining position in the present moment. So where does this psychology come from? Where you're so concerned with winning and maintaining position that you cross moral boundaries and are not concerned with the repercussions, or you may not even realize that you're crossing these boundaries because your goal of winning is that much more important. It's an interesting dilemma because everyone wants to win, but how far are you willing to go for that win? That's the real question. Although I don't agree with Trump from a social or moral perspective, the one thing that I understand about him from reading the things that I have is that he's always looking for an edge in his business dealings and negotiations. And although we associate Trump with money, it's not his motivation. Trump's motivation is winning and having an edge in his business and political deals, and he's willing to cross boundaries to win because he doesn't see situations from a moral perspective. He sees his business and political dealings as a game. He's willing to use tactics that may seem simple in nature but might be difficult to execute in real time. In Chapter 2 of Trump's book, The Art of the Deal, he shares his perspective about what the elements of a strong negotiation or deal could look like. Some of the ideas he touches on are controlling your costs, protecting the downside in your negotiations, knowing your market, and even maximizing your options. Upon reading the line items, it's nothing complex or intellectually savvy. These are simple approaches in any business dealing. However, Trump does something that, in my opinion, stands out, and that is he identifies whatever leverage he has and pushes it as far as he can. From a business perspective, it can be argued that some of his tactics are bold. An example of this is the Domino Effect the construction of the first Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue in New York City had in the 1980s. Because of the prestige of the Fifth Avenue location, the added value it brought to the Trump brand was immense. Because of the added brand value from the Fifth Avenue Trump Tower project, Trump was able to command higher unit prices for his real estate projects at potentially less favorable locations than Fifth Avenue. Now, once again, I don't agree with his stances when it comes to political and social issues, but I do think that he has an intuitive sense of how to navigate his business dealings. I also feel he knows how to stir the waters in order to attract the attention he wants in the present moment. In The Art of the Deal, he speaks on the fact that being bold, different, or even controversial will attract media attention, good or bad, which he then uses to his advantage, and he highlights whatever product or service he wants to market at that particular time. This strategy also draws comparisons to one of the 48 Laws of Power written by Robert Greene. Law number 6 in that particular book speaks on the idea of courting attention at all costs. It's better to be slandered, attacked, or even put into a negative light than ignored, and it's something that Trump uses to his advantage, not only in his business dealings, but also by making ridiculous statements in the political arena as well. There are, of course, more socially and morally correct ways of going about garnering the audience you're looking for. Not every situation calls for outrageous statements to be made or an individual to become polarizing. And at the end of the day, brand value is really created through the quality of the product or service that you're offering, and Trump does touch on this in his book. No matter how much of a promotion or marketing strategy that you have, or excitement being around the actual brand itself, you have to have something of quality and of value so that you can maintain the audience that you've attracted. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Grateful Wealth Magnets. Next week, we'll take a look at what the characteristics are of a quality product. Hope you guys are having an excellent weekend, and we'll see you next week. Peace.